Hey everybody, I'm Bede, aka The Terrible Australian at supermarcy.com. Welcome to the 13th edition of my 2015 MIFF video reviews. For this one, I will be reviewing the Japanese drama Journey to the Shore, and as well as the animated film, and I'm probably going to get the title of this wrong, so forgive me, KAHLIL GIBRAN'S The Prophet. So let's get right into it now. As I stated in previous videos in the past, I will be reading the synopsis for both these films from this year's MIFF program, so that way I don't screw them up. But knowing me, I'm probably going to screw them up anyway, so forgive me if I do. So let's get right into it. First up, of course, is Journey to the Shore. 3 years after losing her husband at sea and presuming him drowned and dead, grief-stricken piano teacher Mizuki finds him standing in her kitchen. Yusuke's return isn't cause for celebration or surprise, but the start of a moving journey as the two travel around the Japanese countryside, visiting old acquaintances marked by mourning. Now, this was definitely one of the films I picked for this year's festival. That was kind of a random choice. The main one for reason, when you get sort of a mini pass, with a mini pass you can pick 10 night sessions, and like you get 13 tickets, 10 of which are night sessions and 3 of which are day sessions. I actually got 2 mini passes, so I had about 3 day sessions, and I was actually struggling trying to find what films to check the day sessions on, because all the ones I wanted to see weren't playing during the day, so if I wanted to see those ones I had to pay a bit more to get the tickets. So I decided to randomly pick Journey to the Shore. I didn't know much about it. All I know is that it was directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, and the name doesn't sound familiar to you, is that I believe he was the guy who directed the original Japanese version of Pulse, the horror film. And so I thought, okay, even though I hadn't had a chance to see Pulse yet, I thought, I'll check this one out. So, and I have to say, I thought this was a pretty solid film. It's not perfect, but I did overall think it was a pretty solid one. And what I really like about this one is that it's a ghost story, but it's not a horror story or anything like that. It's just a full-on, it's a ghost story, and one that's really about grief and moving on, and about love and redemption. And the film kind of does a really good job at sort of exploring those themes in this film. And it's a beautifully made film. It has a very deliberate pace, and it sort of takes its time sort of developing its characters and story. And what I really like about it, it's kind of a vignette film as well, because the characters of Mizuki and Yusuke, so if I pronounce their characters' names wrong, I apologize, as they're sort of going around meeting these different people on this journey, in which Yusuke claims Yusuke says he met after he came back from the dead. And we sort of meet these different characters, and each one has their own sort of story, and they're all kind of mourning for something, and as we sort of get to know these characters, we understand what it is they're mourning for. And like I said, it's a deliberately paced film, but at the same time, it takes its time to tell all of this in a way that I think was kind of beautifully done. And it's a pretty haunting film, not in the sort of the scary sense, but the fact that it kind of lingers with you after when you watch it. And I thought the performances were all solid, and particularly the actress who plays Mizuki, sorry. I thought she was wonderful. And yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid film. But at the same time, though, one of the knocks against it, don't get me wrong, I think it's a fine film, but there's nothing sort of, particularly great about it as well. It's not one I would say, you have to rush out to see right away. It's a perfectly good film to sort of watch when it's on, TV or Sunday afternoon or something like that. But that being said, though, the couple sort of knocks against it. I kind of wish that there, even though there's a lot of really interesting things that the film does explore within its story, I kind of wish they did a bit more with it, because at times the film did seem to drag at times, and the pacing can be too slow. And the film is just over 2 hours, and I kind of feel like it didn't need to be that long. It could have easily have been a much shorter film, and had a much greater impact as a whole. So in that regard, I think it kind of sort of knocks the film down a few pegs for me, at least in that regard. But at the same time, though, I kind of wish it was a bit more engaging. Even though I liked what I saw and enjoyed several aspects, it just wasn't engaging enough for me as a viewer. Like, in some ways it was, but I kind of wish it was more so. So, but overall, it's a decent film, and one I would say it's worth a watch. Probably not. That's the thing, though. Like, this is probably a film that would probably work with other people more so than it did for me. But like I said, it's a decent film. I'd say it's worth a watch. So, if I had to give the Journey to the Shore rating, I will give it about 3 stars. So, there you go. Now on to the next film, which of course is the animated film. And I apologize if I get the author's name of this part of this title wrong. So, it's KAHLIL GIBRAN'S The Prophet. A young girl follows her mother to work to meet the man she cares for, a charismatic, wise poet who is under the house arrest due to his rebellious writing. The poet is released, and on a trip to the port he delivers lessons on freedom, life, love, and death. I always make a habit every time I go to MIFF, and I kind of started doing this. Well, I'm going to make this a tradition now. I did this for the first time, I believe, might have been last year. I don't know if it was the last year or the year before, that I decided to sort of make an effort to see an animated film at MIFF. And there were a lot of really interesting ones coming out, but this was the one that sort of caught my eye the most. And mainly for, the story, but also, its vocal cast. Like, this film, The Prophet, has a great voice cast. You got Liam Neeson, Selma Hayek, who also produced this film, and this was kind of a passion project for her, so she's definitely had a lot to do with this one. And also John Krasinski, Colenzia Wallace, Frank Langella, Alfred Molina, and John Rhys Davies as well. And also it's directed by Roger Allam, who was one of the directors of The Lion King. And also, interesting enough though, what's really interesting about this film is, like, I haven't read the original book that this film is based on, but from what I understand, it does have a story, and it also has the main character of the book sort of recites these kind of poetry and stories to people he meets along the way. And the film does do that a lot in this film. And what's interesting though, even though Ellers, sorry, I pronounced his name wrong before, so forgive me. Roger Ellers is the sort of the main writer-director of the film, of the main narrative of this story. But interesting enough, though, when sort of Liam Neeson's character of Mustafa, who is the poet in the film, kind of goes into his stories or poems about certain subjects there are different animation sequences, and each animation sequence is directed by a different director. So you got like and I'm just going to have to read it out of the MIFF guide with some of the directors who directed some of these sort of vignette animated sequences within the major animated film, and that includes like Bill Plimpton and, let's see, Joan C. Cant, Tom Moore, Mohammed Harib, Paul Brizzi, Gitan Brizzi, and a few others. There's a couple of names there. These kind of vignettes, and these sort of happen multiple times during the course of the film, when the animation sequences in these scenes at least compared to sort of the big major story of the film, are so beautifully done. And you got to, and each one is completely different from the other, so you can tell that these sequences are all made by different people, and it's in their style of animation that they're very well known for. And each one sort of tackles a different theme, like love and marriage and freedom and death, and each one is just beautifully done. And also, but that's not to say Robert Eller's sort of the main story that he does. His main section is beautifully animated as well. It's kind of it's in sort of computer generated, but it has a sort of a 2D look to it, and I just thought it just looked beautiful. And also the vocal performances from everyone was top notch. And Liam Neeson just, I think, is the perfect person to play the role of the poet in this film, because anytime his character kind of goes into these sort of stories, his voice is just so, his trademark voice is so great that it makes you interested in these stories. And but that being said, though, at the same time, as much as I do love these sort of animated vignettes that do happen on occasion when Liam Neeson's character tells these stories, at the same time, though, the film does tend to grind to a halt when these do happen, and you can feel that because it happens multiple times. And sometimes you'll finish one story and then 10 seconds later go straight to another, and you kind of just wish, like, I mean, yeah, I'm enjoying these, but can we get back to the main story, please? And but I know that's not the point of what the film's doing. It wants to tell these different kind of stories, and like I said, like the animation in these sequences are really good, and the stories themselves are really good as well. But at the same time, whenever they sort of pop up during the film, particularly when the main story is just getting really good, it just grinds the film to a halt when they happen, and it happens multiple times, and in a way kind of became a little frustrating. But that's sort of my sort of big main criticism there. But overall, I really enjoyed KAHLIL Gibran's The Prophet. I thought it was a really solid film. I don't know how faithful it is to the book, because I haven't read the original book, so I can't really say. But I really like this one a lot as well, and I definitely would say it's worth a watch. So if I had to give The Prophet a rating, I'd give it 3.5 out of 5. So yep, that's the end of this 13th edition of my MIFF video reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Keep a lookout very soon for my 14th edition, in which I will be reviewing Takashi Miike's latest film, Yakuza Apocalypse, The Great War of the Underworld, and as well as the domestic drama Louder Than Bombs. So keep a lookout for that, and I'll see you guys all later. See everyone. Bye.